Today's arts and crafts segment.
This is a CBS News special report.
We have reports of air raid sirens going off in Tel Aviv. Tom Fenton in Tel Aviv, can you begin at the beginning and tell us what's happening there?
Okay, let me hold this phone up. Maybe you can hear. The sirens have been going off for the last minute and a half. The radio has been broadcasting the message that people should put on their gas masks, go into their sealed-up rooms, and take all the preventive measures for a gas attack. This is the time of evening when one was expected, if one were to calm people in Israel, were strongly suspicious that there would be a second night of attacks. The question is whether these attacks will be conventional like last night and cause a little damage, or whether these could be chemical warfare. One thing is certain, the Israeli government apparently has not yet responded to the first attack. There's been one hit. We've just heard one hit somewhere in Tel Aviv.
Oh, it begins again. 7 Scud missiles last
another night, Charles, and I think after this one, there's no question that the Israeli government will respond. They held off after the first attack. It's hard to see them absorbing 2 attacks like this and doing nothing.
Tom, what form would you expect Israeli retaliation to take? To try to find those mobile Scud missile launchers and take them out, or an attack on Baghdad?
I think that would be the most likely thing, to try to pinpoint the launchers and to take them out. But they might also go for, say, command and control centers in Baghdad to do something spectacular. But my guess would be they try to go for the missile sites. The problem with these missiles is that they're mobile. Some of them are, and they can be wheeled out and fueled up and then shot off.
Tom, this is Connie Chung. Jim Jensen of our New York station WCBS reports hearing sirens in Jerusalem too. We'll try to follow up on that as well. But in the meantime, is there any understanding of how the Israelis, if they do attack, would coordinate this with the United States, knowing full well?
That has been the major problem, Connie, and one of the biggest worries of the Israeli government for the past few weeks. The United States, because of the political sensitivity of the question, the problem of holding together a coalition that includes sworn enemies of Israel, has refused, at least publicly, to coordinate militarily with Israel. Certainly by now, some of that reluctance has broken down. But the real problem would be if Israeli pilots take off and head through Saudi airspace, which will be full of American warplanes. The problem would be if there's not close coordination, Americans and Israelis could end up shooting each other down.
Exactly. That was another hit.
Okay, at this point, I must correct a report that I gave just a minute ago. They're now saying on the radio there have been no hits. We may have heard a sonic boom. Sometimes you can confuse the sound made by a warplane for one of these warheads. The missiles do not carry large payloads. If they're conventional TNT, it's probably something like 300 pounds because of the great distance the missiles have to travel. They have light warheads. However, you do not need a very big warhead if you're carrying chemical weapons to do a considerable amount of damage.
Tom, has the government made any announcement that you know of retaliation? There's a Reuters story now from Jerusalem that says Moshe Aarons, the defense minister, says Israel will retaliate. He said, we've said publicly to the Americans that if we're attacked, we will react. We were attacked. And he is said to have said that to Israeli television.
I was listening to it. I must admit I may have missed some part of it, but it seemed to me that the import of what he said is that Israel appreciated the sort of massive retaliation that the United States has indulged in, but it could not rely on the United States alone. I think the message is clear. The cabinet met this morning for quite some time, both the full cabinet and then a more restricted war cabinet. And observers, well-connected people who talked to cabinet ministers, got a very clear message that Israel might absorb a first series of attacks, the attacks last night. But there was no question that if there was a second series of attacks, Israel would respond. I think now it's almost certain that we'll get some sort of a response from Israel if there are more hits. I must say now, though, that so far we have no confirmed reports of hits. Just the air raid sirens going out, people putting on their protective clothing and their gas masks. No reports of any hits yet.
Tom, just so that everyone understands where we stand right now, you have only heard sirens. What you thought was a hit before was maybe perhaps a sonic boom or whatever. But there have only been sirens. Are the sirens going on now?
No, these sirens are now off. They're louder tonight than they were last night. That was a complaint that many people had, that they were hard to hear. There's also, of course, a report on the radio at the same time. So most people are listening to the radio 24 hours a day now, and if they're not, as soon as the sirens go off, they listen to the radio and television for instructions.
I see. When you held your phone up to the sirens, we could not hear it. I just wanted to mention that to you. And to follow the injuries last night, can you just bring us up to date? There were 7 Scud missile attacks, and can you bring us up to date on the number of injuries?
The last count that I heard from the government was 12 injured, lightly or moderately injured, which is amazing considering the number of missiles that fell. Part of it was just luck, and part of it, I suppose, the fact that they do not carry large warheads, but they are certainly big enough to blast anyone to kingdom come if there's a direct hit. I assume that the warheads were something like 300 pounds of high explosive, and that's quite enough to do a pretty thorough job on whatever it hits.
Tom Fenton, stay with us on the line, will you please? We now have Scott Pelley up on the line from Dhahran. Perhaps he's not quite yet, but we've had a report, Tom, that some American flights have taken off for Iraq, perhaps in response to these this at least warning of a Scud missile attack. Scott Pelley, are you there now? Guess not. But you...
In eastern Saudi Arabia, it was the site of a Scud missile attack yesterday. You will recall that an American anti-missile missile was able to knock down the Scud missile. We just saw 2 Tornado interceptor aircraft leave here with their afterburners at full throttle, apparently being vectored to an incoming aircraft of some kind. As I'm speaking to you now, we hear the air raid.
We've just lost Scott Pelley. He was reporting from Saudi Arabia. At the very beginning of his report, I wasn't able to hear. Were you able to hear at the very beginning? My
understanding of what he was trying to tell us, Connie, was that there were reports of incoming aircraft headed for Saudi Arabia for an attack, and that 2 of those British Tornadoes were scrambled to try to meet the attack. Last night there was an attempted attack on Dhahran. 1 Scud missile, as we know, came in, and one of those Patriot anti-missile missiles took it out. It would be surprising, I think, to everybody if Saddam Hussein at this point didn't try whatever he can do to launch an attack on Saudi Arabia, on American forces. And maybe what Tom Fenton was telling us is that simultaneously he is launching more Scuds against Israel.
Tom Fenton remains in Tel Aviv. We now have a report that Israeli radio is reporting that an attack is underway, that there is an attack. Tom Fenton is putting on his gas mask, we are told. As soon as he's able to do that, he will return to the telephone and talk to us. Just moments ago, we interrupted special programming on the East Coast. We were continuing on the West Coast to report that Tom Fenton in Tel Aviv had heard sirens. We went to Tom Fenton. He thought he had heard a bomb, did not, but now, in fact, Israeli radio is reporting an attack. We will go to Tom Fenton as soon as possible. We just went to Scott Pelley in Saudi Arabia, and that was cut off very abruptly.
Jim Stewart may be able to cast a little light on what's happening. Obviously, something is over there. He's at the Pentagon. Jim?
Charles, there is no confirmation here at the Pentagon that there's been any new Scud attack against Israel, and we understand that the White House, too, has no word of this. They are watching and listening and hearing of this just as we are from Tom Fenton and Scott Pelley. However, it's easy to say that this has been one of the biggest fears that the Pentagon has expressed all day here, that in fact these Scud missile sites, both mobile and fixed positions, especially in western Iraq, those positions now that threaten Israel most, some escaped undamaged, not only the first wave but the second and third follow-up waves. It's too easy to read in between the lines here, but one would anticipate that if additional Scuds have been launched, that perhaps what we're witnessing now in Saudi Arabia are quick launches to vector toward those sectors where they were spotted going off. If they are mobile, the standard procedure is to fire and then rapidly get out of the area before retaliatory forces can arrive. So that's only speculation at this point, but it sounds like the sort of scenario that would unfold. But clearly, Scud missiles, those missiles that have escaped damage, have been on the top of the list here of concerns that the Pentagon has expressed today.
Thank you, Jim Stewart at the Pentagon. Let us go now to Tom Fenton. Fenton, can you tell us what are you hearing on Israeli radio?
Okay, the Israeli Army spokesman says, that the sirens have gone off. People have been instructed to put on gas masks, to turn off the air condition, and to go into their sealed rooms. So clearly they're expecting a chemical attack. We thought we heard a blast. It may have been a sonic boom. So far there are no reports of hits. The last night when the sirens went off, the hits followed very, very shortly after. There was quite a short warning period, if you could call it a warning period, a minute or two at the most. That's it for the moment. Right now, Israeli television is running a video showing people how to put on the gas mask, how to put on the protective clothing, what to do to shut down the air conditioning, that sort of thing. There was a lot of apprehension today. Several of our staff stayed home this evening because their families were quite nervous. The children didn't want to put on the gas mask. The wives were very worried. There was a pretty high level of anxiety, perhaps higher than I indicated earlier this evening before I talked to some of these people.
Tom,
I think it's quite understandable. It's not a normal thing to face an attack that is possibly an unconventional or non-conventional attack. Saddam Hussein has both poison gas and nerve gas, and if you're not properly protected, nerve gas can be very quickly fatal, as can various other types of chemical warfare. It's an insidious thing. It's aimed at a general population. It's basically a terror weapon, not a military weapon, not something that is going to be effective against military targets, because he has a limited number of these missiles and cannot aim them. You just point them in the general direction, and if they hit within a mile of your intended target, you're lucky. Connie?
All right, Tom, once again, the Israeli radio is telling all citizens to put on gas masks. The sirens were going. They're not going on now. Is that
no, but the sirens, they don't go off continuously. The sirens announce the air raid or the alert, and then the next thing you hear, if you do hear, will be the siren announcing that the alert is over. So the alert is on. The alert is on.
And you have your gas mask on, and there are others there with you who do.
Well, most of the others have them on. I haven't had time to put mine on yet. I'm just going to suit up as soon as we finish here talking.
Tom, stay with us. Please put your gas mask on.
Well, it's a pain in the neck, Charles. I'd rather not. Very hard to talk through it.
Stay with us on the line, will you, Tom? We're going to go over to Bob Schieffer, who's there with General Chris now. Perhaps they can speculate on what's going on in the middle of the night over there.
Thank you, Charles, and of course interrupt us the moment that Tom Fenton has some news from the scene there. But I thought, General, we might just talk about what we can tell from here what has probably happened if these missiles have been launched. They came from about right here in Iraq. Is that right?
That's right. The missile sites are just about here, which is about 400 miles from Tel Aviv. Now, what is happening? Those sites have been struck by F-117s, as General Horner said this morning, as well as F-111s and the Navy carrier aircraft. Now, what they're doing, I think, they have pre-surveyed paths, which is the place they put the missile on. They take the missile and they hide it during the daytime. Nighttime, they bring the missile out, put it in. It's already surveyed in, so all you have to do is fuel up the missile and you aim it. And the flying time is less than an hour in there, Bob.
All right, back to you, Charles.
Let me just interrupt you briefly to go to Scott Pelley. I think they're worried about an air raid at Dhahran now. Scott?
Charles, there is an air raid alert here in eastern Saudi Arabia, one generated by the large Saudi air base where we are now. Over the last few moments, we have watched American and apparently Saudi intercept planes launched from the air base here. This was a very similar scenario to what happened last night when last night there was an incoming Scud missile here. We do not have any information at this moment as to whether there is any incoming missile or aircraft coming to this base in Saudi Arabia. However, clearly there has been some sort of indication that generated an air raid alarm a few minutes ago and has resulted in the launching of these aircraft. We are waiting for more information at this moment.
All right.
People in the vicinity of where we are now, Charles, have been told to put on their gas masks and to proceed to the basement of a building where we are.
All right. Obviously an attempted Iraqi attack, both on American forces at Dhahran in Saudi Arabia and on Israel. Bob Schieffer, what do you and the general make of this preliminary news? These first reports are always a little confusing.
This is an ominous thing, Charles, because the Israelis had said in the beginning that they would not order a preemptive strike. Last night they took the hits from the Iraqi missiles, and they said we'll consider it the next time around. The cabinet met this morning. So we're back to the question we were asking last night. Will Israel respond to this? And if indeed they do, how will that change the complexion of this war? From what we were hearing now, General, let's go back to the map here. This is where Scott Pelley is,
right,
Dhahran. So obviously the Iraqis who have moved missiles into this part of their country to fire on Israel, they must be down in here somewhere, I would take it.
What they've done, Bob, and we've just found this out, they have now moved Scuds in and around Kuwait area. They tried to attack some Scud sites up there yesterday. So Scuds are now very much closer, and you see this is only about 300 miles. So much closer to Dhahran.
Let's talk about also what, in a realistic sense, are the president's options now. What do we have? The Allied forces have about 2,000 aircraft, right?
That's right.
And they've been flying about 2,000 missions a day. That means you've been getting one plane flying one mission. Can we keep up that kind of an attack, General?
Bob, at some point in time, you've got to let the pilots rest, the airplanes rest, and retarget all of this. And you just can't keep going 2,000 a day.
Let's go back to Charles now. No, I'm sorry. Look, General, I'm seeing they're showing tape now. This is some of the bombing pictures that we saw earlier today from the news conference. Why don't you try to make out for us what this is?
Well, I think we're looking off the top of the hotel at Dhahran. We're seeing something going up in the air. It looks like an aircraft.
Back to Charles.
All right. Thank you, Bob. We needed to interrupt Bob and General Chris because we want to go to Leslie Stahl. Leslie, we have received reports that an attack is underway against Israel, and at least the Iraqis have perhaps made an attempt to attack Saudi Arabia's, the American bases at Saudi Arabia. What can you tell us at the White House?
At the White House, they have no independent knowledge of the attack. They're watching television like everybody else. A lot of heightened tension here. I will tell you, eerily enough, that the president was on the phone with Yitzhak Shamir, the Prime Minister of Israel. I think it's the first time they've talked to each other directly. Right before the sirens went off in Israel, moments before, Marlon Fitzwater, the press secretary, just told us that the call was made at about 1:45, obviously urging that Israel not retaliate if they are struck again. This is very eerie because when they spoke, this attack was not known apparently. So the diplomatic maneuverings to keep Israel out of this had been going on. President obviously getting some kind of report out of that cabinet meeting that had taken place. Heightened tension here. The president was scheduled to go to the Pentagon for a briefing in about a half hour. It's unclear whether he will now go or not. Everybody watching television here at the White House trying to see what happens from here on.
Leslie, Israeli radio says that the sirens that everyone heard were not a drill. It was, in fact, legitimate, and the sirens that our Tom Fenton heard were there. Tom Fenton tells us that all Israeli citizens were told to put on their gas masks. Charles?
I think Tom may be able to tell us more about this. I think there's a difference in the siren they sound when they suspect a conventional attack and the one that they sound for the people when they expect a chemical attack. A two-tone siren or something of the sort, and no matter what kind of siren he's hearing, it's very worrisome. Must be for you. Tom, are you there with us still?
Yes, I am, Charles. I think it's a little simpler here. It's the same siren for both. Then you're supposed to turn on the radio and listen to the instructions. And as I said earlier this evening, it's whether it's upstairs or downstairs. If they consider that it's likely to be a chemical attack, you're supposed to go up into the sealed rooms. If it's a conventional attack, or if the guess is that it's going to be a conventional attack, you're supposed to go down to the basement shelters. Of course, there's absolutely no way of knowing what's in the warhead until it hits.
Here's something you could clarify for us. How do the Israelis know when to set off the sirens? Because a Scud missile comes in so low. Do they pick them up on radar?
Well, the answer is that yesterday they only picked them up at the very last minute because we got a warning after the first siren. We got a warning of about a minute and a half before the first hits. These are insidious weapons from that point of view. It's almost impossible to protect yourself. Where you get advance warning, if you do, is while the missiles are being loaded up. It takes about their liquid fuel missiles, very old-fashioned, quite similar to the sort of V-1s and V-2s, I suppose, that the British got during World War II. While they're being loaded up there, and that should be done out in the open because it is a very dangerous process using liquid fuel, you have a chance to spot them. But of course, if they're loading them up at nighttime, it may be difficult for satellites to pick them up. I'm not an expert on that sort of thing. So that you may not get any warning until they're actually fired off. And then it takes about, I think, 5 minutes or so to travel the distance. I'm not sure how long it is.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Just to sum up very briefly the situation as we know it right now, Israeli radio has announced that an attack on Israel is underway again tonight. And there are great suspicions around Iran, the big American base in Saudi Arabia, that Iraq is attempting an attack on Saudi Arabia as well. Jim Stewart at the Pentagon may be able to add a little something to this. Jim?
Charles, the Pentagon officials have just told CBS News that they are fairly confident, and those are their words, fairly confident that this is not a Scud attack on Israel. Now, it's unclear at this time exactly what they base that knowledge on. Presumably, as Tom Fenton pointed out, some satellite imagery has become available to them. We just don't know at this point, but they say they are fairly confident it is not a Scud attack.
Well, perhaps, is Tom Fenton still on the line here? Perhaps he can shed some light for us. Tom, are you still there? Tom Fenton.
Connie, I'm here. There's another warning siren. The alert is still on. I have no other explanation for it except that means people are to remain suited up, remain in the sealed up rooms, and remain with the gas masks on. We haven't heard, to our knowledge, any explosions. There have been no reports, to our knowledge, of any hits. I'm just going to see if we can listen to the radio now to see what they're saying.
Well, Tom Fenton listens to the radio, Charles. I think we need to be a bit cautious again, as we have been or have tried to be throughout our coverage, and that is that we're not quite sure if there is an attack. Certainly there have been sirens, and Israeli radio is telling its citizens to put gas masks on, but we can't confirm that because obviously the Pentagon is not in any way, shape, or form confirming it. I think if we hear from the Pentagon some definitive word, we can proceed. So
far, we should emphasize, there are no reports of any of these missiles or bombs from aircraft striking the ground. Let's go back to Bob Schieffer and General Christ now while we wait for news from the Persian Gulf.
Charles, has General Christ and I were listening to Jim Stewart reporting from the Pentagon that the Pentagon says it does not believe this was a Scud attack. General, why do you think the Pentagon could come to that conclusion?
Well, after last night, we asked the Israelis not to respond to the attack, which means then that it has become our responsibility to prevent those attacks. And I suspect that either aircraft from the carrier or from Saudi Arabia are up over those sites watching them during the night. And so they would be able to see, in fact, whether they're loading and shooting.
And so that would be the reason that the Pentagon would be able to report what Jim Stewart.
It would be my guess. I imagine they're playing those missiles very, very closely because of the impact.
So it's just speculation here, Charles, but perhaps that is indeed why the Pentagon has given that information to Jim Stewart.
All right, some solid information from Tom Fenton now, I think. Tom?
Yes, Charles, the siren we just heard was an all clear, which means that temporarily you can leave your sealed up room, take off your gas mask, and just remain indoors and continue to listen to the radio. So whether there was a hit anywhere, I don't know. It may just have been a false alarm, but there was a full-scale alert. The sirens went off. People went into the sealed rooms. They put on their gas masks, and now we've just gotten the all clear. I doubt, however, if that's the end of it all for tonight. The evening is just beginning. This is the danger period. We'll keep in touch with you and, of course, let you know immediately if there's any change.
This is the Jewish Sabbath has begun, has it not? It began at dusk, your time?
The Jewish Sabbath began at dusk. In fact, I think they pushed it up a little early this evening for obvious reasons. It's not a very happy Sabbath. There is a considerable amount of anxiety, as you can imagine. I've heard from some of the employees of CBS that their families were quite upset. In one case, the child didn't want to put on his gas mask. It's the sort of thing that you can imagine yourself. The fear of the unknown, to a large extent, if you've never been subjected to a chemical warfare attack, and thank God very few people have been since World War I. It's Saddam Hussein who has resurrected this terrible weapon of mass destruction.
Tom, thank you so much. We have I think, of the Israelis are probably at home because it is the Jewish Sabbath. They're indoors listening to their radios. To recap, the all clear has been given in Israel. We had been told that there were sirens not only in Tel Aviv but in Jerusalem as well. But the all clear has been given. The Pentagon has made clear that it does not believe any attack occurred.
We should just add before we sign off for the time being that if the Iraqis are attempting attacks, they're not the only ones tonight. We learned that U.S. warplanes based in Turkey now have taken off to attack Iraq. So Iraq is being attacked from every direction except due west, where the Israelis, to our knowledge, have not yet launched a retaliatory attack. All right, with Connie Chung, I'm Charles Kuralt. We'll return to the air with CBS News coverage of this war in the Gulf as events warrant.
And you've been watching continuous coverage here in CBS of the Gulf War. Obviously high anxiety in the area of Israel and also parts of Saudi Arabia, with fears that missile strikes might be underway. At this point, that appears not to be the case. We will monitor the network closely for you and keep you apprised of developments as they pertain to Operation Desert Storm back here in Middle Tennessee and southern Kentucky. And we'll continue in a moment with more of Talk of the Town.
If you think Michael's is just an arts and crafts store, you're in for a big surprise. For a huge selection of party decorations and supplies, no place is more fun than Michael's. Don't you just love surprises? When we say Michael's is more than just an arts and crafts store, we're not just telling you a yarn. For needlepoint, crochet, or cross-stitch, Michael's has all the items to make your project just so. Get it? Yarn?
At Furniture World, 12 plus 10 equal 20. That's 12 months free interest plus a 10% discount or a 20% discount for cash. Good on all furniture and bedding, including Broyhill, Kincaid, Stratolanger, and Jameson. With over 80,000 square feet, you'll find quality and selection at Furniture World, Franklin and Nashville.
It's LA Joe Madness! 25% off is all you have to know! Joe! Everything at LA Joe is 25% off! Every price at every department is 25% off! LA Joe has always had low prices, now they're 25% off! Clothing for mom, dad, and the kids! Sporting goods and hardware, shoes and jewelry! Everything at LA Joe is 25% off our regular low price! These prices can't last forever! This sale ends Sunday! Don't miss the 25% off sale at LA Joe! LA Joe!
Understand, this is nothing personal. It's business. Before we get started, what do you want on your tombstone?
Mushrooms and red peppers.